What's up, investors? Is the Russian debt. Sometimes geopolitics feels like a twisted circus, and the latest act brought to you by Washington is exactly that. Imagine the Oval Office transformed to a crowded waiting room where the most powerful leaders of the Western world sit elbow to elbow, hoping the old man in the center does not forget their names. That is what we got with Trump hosting Zelensky, along with a parade of European leaders, NATO's Secretary General and the European Union President. To make it even more absurd, Trump used his lifeline 15 minutes of this meeting, kinda basically, and he basically dialed up his friend Vladimir Putin during the very same summit. Let that sink in. An emergency gathering about Russia's war in Ukraine, and the American president phones the aggressor mid-discussion. You just simply cannot make this stuff up. And yes, even though this meeting happened a little over a week ago, the hilariously not so funny details and consequences only started to emerge right now. Beneath the comedy of misplaced name, cards and beauty pageant compliments lies something more serious. Finland. Yes, the same Finland that once endured Finlandization as Moscow's anxious neighbor, and now it has entered the stage in a way that could shift the whole balance. As Western media calls it, and this is almost a literal direct quote, a Finnish factor enters the Russia-Ukraine war. Add to that Ukraine's bombshell, pun intended, unveiling of the Flamingo cruise missile, a pink-tipped war machine capable of soaring 3,000 kilometers into Russian territory, with a payload big enough to erase all refineries of the map. And not just all refineries, if you know what I mean. The combination of these two, and you get a cocktail of symbolism, absurdity, and raw power. Buckle in, guys. Today we got a lot to discuss. The image alone is historic. 8 European leaders crammed into the Oval Office, fighting for camera space, with Trump in the middle like a fading game show TV host. The custom is familiar. Trump likes sees secretaries wedged beside him as nervous children, but this time the crowd was so large that Marco Rubio, his Secretary of State and acting National Security Advisor, could not even find a chair. And then came the unforgettable moment. Trump failing to recognize Alexander Stubb, the president of Finland, even though the man sat directly in front of him and placed cards with the names were on the table, but apparently it was not enough. Where? Trump was asking like he was playing peekaboo with a toddler.
President Stubb of Finland, and he's somebody that, where are we here? Where? Oh, you look better than I've ever seen you look.
And then Stubb's emotionless Finnish-style reply, "I'm right here," was the kind of humiliation that only gets worse when the president recovers with a beauty compliment about how good the man looks. But okay, funny, yes. Embarrassing, absolutely. But here's the thing. The farce hides something deeper. Trump's fondness for Putin is well known. His suspicion for Zelensky is legendary. And now his golf buddy from Helsinki is supposed to play mediator. Instead of a serious summit on how to counter Russia, we got a room full of anxious leaders trying to babysit the President of the United States. Is it solidarity or just crisis management to prevent Trump from selling Ukraine down the river while joking about hairstyles? Who knows? Let's see. When history books write about this specific meeting, they'll most likely treat it less as a high diplomacy and more as the moment Europe realized they had to carry the burden of Ukraine while America flirted with Putin in real time. And while all this might not sound serious enough for Donald Jr., after all, there is a huge ocean separating America and Europe, including Russia, some European countries face deadly consequences every living day. Take Finland alone, for example, Russia's northwestern neighbor sharing extensive border, which is extremely difficult to protect along its entirety. So this meeting was probably the trigger point for, once again, this so-called Finnish factor entering the war. Because they finally realized that the only ones they can count on are themselves only. Let's talk about it in more details in our next chapter. If anyone understands what it means to live next door to Russia, well, it's Finland. A 1,300-kilometer border means you do not need academic debates to grasp imperial appetites of Putin. You just have to look out of the window. The Finns spent the 20th century living in Moscow's shadow, even swallowing the humiliation on Finlandization, where survival meant bending the knee to the Soviets without officially joining their empire. For decades, they lived with the constant reminder that the Kremlin does not see neighbors, it sees enemies, and most importantly, targets. Fast forward to Putin's invasion of Ukraine 2022, or even before this 2014, and Finland finally gave up on decades of caution. They joined NATO, abandoned the old fear that membership would provoke Russia, specifically Putin, and ironically, Putin's war achieved, well, exactly the opposite of even his stated goals. Instead of pushing NATO back, he got it planted firmly on Finland's doorstep, extending Russia's NATO border significantly. And that is the lesson Alexander Stubb carried into Washington, whether Trump remembered his face or not. And the lesson goes as following: Russia cannot be appeased, it must be contained. Had Ukraine been in NATO in 2014, there would probably not be an annexation of Crimea, no full scare in 2022, and no endless slaughter we see every day right now. Stubb's role is simple but vital. He is the neighbor who knows the bully the best. And if Trump will not listen to Zelensky because he sees him as a nuisance, maybe he will listen to his golf partner. Finland's voice in this circus is not comic relief. It is a lifeline reminding Washington that the only way to deal with Putin is strength, not flattery. Whether or not Trump learned that lesson is doubtful, but hopeful at least. But Finland's presence in that Oval Office was symbolic. The days of quiet compromise with Russia are over. NATO has expanded, the buffer zones are gone, and Moscow now stares at a 21st century fortress stretching from the Baltic to the Black Sea. Speaking about Ukraine, more and more they have to think about providing their own security guarantees, because the ones promised by the West are either never coming, or simply not working, or just not enough. Putin just does not care. And so, Ukraine continued to push the limits of modern warfare by developing their own ultra-modern cruise missile called Flamingo. Let's talk about in more details its significance and most importantly symbolism in our next chapter. While Trump forgot names and Europe prayed for adult supervision, Ukraine unveiled a weapon that cuts through all the noise. The Flamingo FP-5 cruise missile is not just another tool, it is a game changer, literally. Picture this, a missile built entirely in Ukraine, developed in less than 9 months, capable of flying 3,000 kilometers into Russian territory with a warhead weighing over a ton. This is not just firepower, that's economic terror for Moscow. Refineries, power plants, logistical hubs, airports, targets that drones can only scratch, suddenly fall within reach of a single, totally annihilating Flamingo strike. And let's pause on the name, Flamingo, not some ominous testosterone-drenched monstrosity like Satan II or Poseidon. No, this one began with a bright pink warhead tip and a symbol of women in weapons production. Its CEO, Irina Terek, even called it a big D energy moment. Translation: when your missile can incinerate half of Europe here in Russia, you do not need a scary name, because its effectiveness speaks for itself. So obviously what about Russian reaction? Denial, dismissal, nervous mockery, same as usual, nothing new. Thus, media insist that design is British, as if Ukraine could not possibly create something so powerful on its own. But their very attempt to smother publicity reveals the truth. They are scared, and they should be. A single Neptune missile with a fraction of the Flamingo's power burned down a refinery for 3 days. Now imagine what a fleet of Flamingos can do. Ukraine plans to produce 200 a month by December, so you can just do the month. In 6 months, they could have over 1,000 of missiles, enough to cripple Russia's economy in days, if unleashed at once. What does this mean strategically? It means that Putin can bomb Kiev every day, but Kiev now has the tools to strike back deep into Russia, making Red Square itself feel vulnerable. And for once, the fear is flowing in the opposite direction. The pink-tipped monster is not just hardware, it's Ukraine's insurance policy. And this big D is aimed right at Putin's ass right now. Please don't imagine this picture in your hand. Don't make my mistake. Of course, Europe being Europe, not everyone is moving as boldly as Finland or Ukraine. Enter Germany, still tied up in its own contradictions over whether to send Taurus cruise missiles or not. Stealthy, precise, with a 500-kilometer range, Taurus could complement Britain's Storm Shadow and France's Scalp. But Germany hesitates, hiding behind strategic ambiguity while promising future co-production of long-range weapons. In plain terms, they want the credit of support without the risk of escalation. This indecisiveness contrasts sharply with Ukraine's urgency. While Berlin debates, Kiev builds. While Scholz and now Merz shuffle excuses, esoteric engineers pump out missiles faster than Moscow can dismiss them. Experts like Fabian Hoffman are blunt. If Ukraine builds and then launches 3,000 to 5,000 Flamingos, Russia loses 25% of its economic output in a matter of days, and these are conservative estimations. That's not wishful thinking, that's just simple math. And the symbolism itself also could not be starker. Germany clings to Cold War caution while Ukraine invents its way into survival. And here lies the new paradox. Ukraine's strongest security guarantee may not be NATO membership or American promises. It may be the arsenal they built with their own hands. 1,000 Flamingos lined up in a warehouse ready to take off a moment's notice is a deterrent more credible than any diplomatic agreement from Brussels. What does this mean for Russia? It means the walls are closing in. NATO stretches further than ever, Ukraine's weapons reach deeper than ever, and Putin's empire fantasy collides with technological reality. The Flamingo is not just a missile, it is a message. It tells Moscow that the days of one-sided slaughter are ending. It tells the West that Ukraine will not wait for signatures on treaties while its cities burn. And it tells the world that even in a circus of incompetence, there are still nations willing to forge their own survival with steel, fire, and yes, even just a little splash of pink. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support our work, there are links down below, for example, PayPal donations. Thanks so much for watching, see you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe